And we are live. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Therapy Thursday. It is March 18th, 2021. It is another edition of Therapy Thursday. Very happy to bring to you. My name is Evan Adler. I'm a physical therapist and chair of the Community Engagement Committee here at UNC Therapy Services. And we're very happy to bring this service to you. We are unfortunately still in the time of COVID, so we're not doing a lot of hands-on outreach. But we're able to put this together for everyone on a twice a month basis to give some information out there to the general public. So, and this definitely gives us a larger reach than just our own backyard. So, today's topic is going to be riding the merry-go-round, dizziness and vertigo explained. This is something that we see here in PT more often than a lot of people would think, and it's a great topic that Kristen is going to present on today. And yeah, I don't think I have much more to say to intro today. So Kristen, why don't you go ahead and take it away? As she's giving her presentation, I would encourage everybody, if you have questions along the way, please use the chat feature in the WebEx. I'll be monitoring that and helping Kristen with that. We'll try to save all the questions to the end, but if there's something that just has to be asked right away, please do put it in the chat, and we will try to get to it as we go. Also, to keep your eye on the chat, I'll be putting in some links there for our Facebook page, so you can find out more about Therapy Thursday and UNC Therapy Services and other events we have coming up. The link to our YouTube channel, where all of our our Therapy Thursday presentations live. Yeah, I think that's about it. All right, Kristen, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Evan, for the warm introduction, and thank you, everyone, for listening and spending some time with me today. So I had some different visions of what a merry-go-round looked like. So this one looks a little bit more playful. You might think of one of like the carousels where you ride the horse, where it goes up and down and goes in different directions. So for some people, this looks like this might be fun. And for others of us, we might look at it and think, this does not conjure up good feelings or good experiences. So a quick thing about me, and the letters behind my name. So I'm a physical therapist. I have my master's in physical therapy. That's what the MPT stands for. And I also have my master's in health administration, which means that I have moved on into management. I work for UNC Health, and I am at one of our outpatient clinics, and I'm actually at one of the clinic, in Durham location. If you see me moving and looking off to the side, is because I just have some like the chat function and the video up on the side. So I am paying attention. But so wanted to go through. There we go. So our learning objectives is, oftentimes we use the word dizziness and vertigo, and people use them in different ways. So we want to get a sense of how to describe what that sense of imbalance is and what it means to different people. There's lots of different factors that can be involved in this and can make you feel that imbalance or that spinning or that dizzy sensation. And not all dizziness and vertigo are the same. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn what these terms mean from a health perspective, what can cause some of these strange sensations, and what to do if you or you know of somebody who experiences it. And then lastly, we're going to talk about how physical therapy is, much like Evan had mentioned. Not many people really know that physical therapy is an avenue that you can pursue in order to get some relief and to manage some symptoms. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So like Evan asked earlier, if you have any questions, please do add them into the chat function. So I want to start out with some basics. So there's lots of things that we're going to find out that influence dizziness and balance and vertigo. So first thing is our vision. So this top picture depicts that our eyes move in many different directions, right? So they can move up, they can move down, towards the nose, away from the nose. They can go up in diagonals, right? And they can go down and out. And that's when they're moving and working together in the same directions. Now they also move in opposite directions. So just like the picture down below, is that something was coming closer to their nose, right? And so then the eyes start to come together in equal and opposite movements. And then as we focus and look out, is that then our eyes move in different directions, right? So there are times that they work in unison, and then there are times that they work in equal and opposite directions. So especially even if I'm going diagonal, one is kind of going to the inside and one is going to the outside. Okay, and then we have the inner ear. So our ear is really involved in a lot of different things. We know for sure that it's involved in hearing, and that's more the outer ear and the middle ear functions. So the inner ear, it's way embedded just behind the ear. You cannot see it. So somebody, your doctor, your nurse, or whomever looking in your ear won't be able to see this. And it's very small, so much smaller than the size of your fingernail on your pinky. So the blue and brown, the diagram there, it shows a simplified version of what the inner ear is. So there's these canals, and they're informed in different orientations. So one kind of goes up and down, one a little bit off to the side, and then one in a diagonal pattern. So they help us sense movement. They also help sense acceleration, right? So you can tell when you're accelerating, when you're decelerating in a car or in a bus. You can sense movement, like you press the elevator button, and you're like, well, I pressed floor number 4, but it doesn't feel like I'm going up. It feels like I'm going down. So there's parts that tells us when we're going up and down. And then it also helps us coordinate information from our eyes, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So this is those semicircular canals. So those, it's kind of like it works as a gyroscope. There's one on either side of our head, and they work in equal and opposite directions. And combined, all of these canals and these sensors, is they work like a gyroscope, and then they help us sense movement. And then they also tell us where we're in relation to things, right? So even when I'm in the shower and I close my eyes and I tilt my head to rinse my hair, then I can still tell like where I am in space, right? So I don't have to necessarily see where I am. I can feel where things are. So that's what it works as a gyroscope. So again, it tells us exactly where we are in space. So the funny thing is that our eyes and our ears, they work together. And this is to help us stabilize our vision. So as I turn my head, or I tilt my head, my eyes kind of rotate and they move in the opposite direction. That's so that you still look like the world is right side up, right? And then as I come up. Now, however, if they don't rotate and they're not working together, my ears say I'm tilting. But if my eyes don't really have the communication, well, then the world is gonna tilt with me, just like in picture B, right? And then as we come back. So even as I'm moving or I'm turning my head, I'm still looking at you, is that my eyes are working together, and then that communication that they have with my ears tell me exactly how far to move, and then how quickly I'm moving, and then it keeps you in focus for me. Other things that we'll learn that play into our dizziness and our balance, and as well as our vertigo, is our postural control. So our body is really crazy intuitive. It takes information from our vision. It also takes in that vestibular information. So that's kind of that snail-looking thing there. That's that ear. It senses information from our body, from our legs. and then all the way down to the touch, so like the feel of the ground through our feet. It gathers all that information, goes into our brain, and so that also coordinates with our vision and then with our ears, and that helps us know how to maintain control. So, and then what it does is that information in the brain that goes back out to the body, and then it tells our eyes and it tells our ears what to do. So it's this constant circle of information. Now, there's a lot of information that comes through, and then we're multitasking, right? We pride ourselves on multitasking. So there's a lot of information that's coming through. It comes through my eyes, it comes through my ears, right? It comes through my body. And all of that information is coming together when it has to work in symphony, or else it's just going to sound like chaos. And so there's a part of our lower part of our brain called the cerebellum. And what it does is it helps coordinate all the influx of information. And it's really good at multitasking. And what it does is it kind of funnels and sieves, and then it helps all those pieces work together. So like this person who's adjusting her sock and her boot, is that even though she's moving and doing multiple things simultaneously, is that her cerebellum helps coordinate and have her maintain her balance, and allows for her to still adjust her sock and her boot without falling over. So there's lots of, again, sensory information that comes in, and it all comes in together. It comes in this wonderful harmony. So again, from the vestibular system, which is housed in our ear, and then we also have nerves that conduct information from our eyes, gathering in a lot of information. Most of our information comes in through our eyes. We also have from the proprioceptives. So that's a fancy word of saying that, like, that position sense. Like, I know where I am, I know where my posture is. And then it all comes into the brain, right? And then it all goes back out, and then it influences my balance and how I feel. If I feel balanced, do I feel normal, or do I feel dizzy? So not to go into too much detail, but there are several different channels and pathways where all this information derives from, and that goes through our vestibular system or our inner ear system. So there's information that comes up from our body, goes through the highway of our spinal cord, goes up to our brain, right? Like we said, that the cerebellum kind of processes and it filters and communicates and gets them all working at the same rate. So, but where it comes through, it also goes to this part of the brain, and then it takes that information and it shares it over here, it shares it over there, and then over here, right? So we're getting information that comes together and it goes in different directions. Now, when it is all working in harmony, excuse me, let me see if I can play my video here. So now when everything is working together, this person, she is moving, she is spinning, she's not relying on what she sees, right? She has this ability to spin and maintain her balance. So figure skaters, dancers, right, they're excellent at maintaining, and she can sense where her sense of position is and still move, and all the cerebellum, it coordinates all that. So it's always amazing when you watch somebody who can have all of those things come together. Okay. We know that doesn't always happen for us, right? Things, sometimes they get a little off kilter, right? They make us feel off balance, and then they're not always in that harmony and that synchrony. And then sometimes when we get conflicting information, is that our body just kind of goes, whoa, like what's going on? And it gets a little confused at times. So if you've ever been in a vehicle, and you're at an intersection and you're stopped. And then the vehicle next to you starts to move, or they start to drift. And then you kind of like, whoa, I feel like I'm drifting, right? So what you saw, but what you felt didn't quite match. And so what happens is then you kind of get this sense of like, oh, like, let me check out, see what's happening. It feels confusing, and it kind of gives you that little bit of that startling sensation. So there are times when an information, if either it's not coming in at the same rate, or it doesn't feel like it's telling you the same thing, as then that's when we start to have like these really odd sensations that can make you feel either dizzy, they can make you feel off balance, and they can just make you feel like, I don't know what's happening here, like just let me hold on to something or figure out what's going on here. So there are multiple types of dizziness, and so I lumped it into 4 different groups. So here you can have a feeling of off balance. There's lightheadedness, there's vertigo, and then there's other. Okay, so what is this other? So we're going to talk about all of those things. So they can overlap with each other, and so sometimes it's really hard to discern what is it that I'm feeling, what's going on. So the brain is trying to process all of this simultaneously. Let's talk about off-balance feeling. So off-balance is more of a body sensation. It's feeling unsteady, and it occurs most often when we're standing or we're walking. Like, you might feel fine when you're sitting, but it's when you get up and you're kind of feeling like, ooh, let me reach out for something, or, give me a moment. Things just aren't quite feeling right. You might feel like you're swaying. I feel like I am moving. Like, I feel like I can't control myself. So some possible causes of that off-balance feeling is the inner ear system. If maybe it's gotten a little lazy, it's gotten a little sluggish, and then so it may not be contributing the same amount of information to our brain as other parts of our system that is coming through, like including like our vision or what we're feeling through the ground, through our feet. And so if the inner ear system seems a little sluggish, or it's not kind of getting the information in a timely manner, then it can make us feel a little off balance. Slowed information processing is just that. Is all this information, your brain is getting this deluge of information constantly. It can filter out to say, hey, I don't need to pay attention to that, but I need to pay attention to this. So it's constantly filtering. But when there are things that can affect the brain and our body, and then it slows down that processing. So you might feel like a little bit of a fog, and sometimes it takes a moment, like that delay. It's kind of like whoa, what just happened there? And so and it takes that extra moment for your body to react to it. But also just because you have a loss in sensation, maybe you're not feeling the ground through your feet as well. Some medications, they often have side effects that can lead to dizziness and feelings of off balance. Distractions. Distractions are big in our lives right now. So distractions could be, I'm crossing the street, but maybe I'm looking at my phone, right? So I'm not really paying attention, and I didn't notice, there's a curb that's right there, or the change in the surface. Or there could also be a fluid imbalance, and that could be related to your inner ear. There's fluid that's in there, and it sometimes we can have too much fluid, and it can give you a strange sensation. There's also the category of lightheaded. So lightheaded is like, I feel like I'm about to faint. I'm weak. I just stood up. I feel kind of weak, and let me just sit down or lay down for just a moment. I feel kind of woozy. Some of my older clientele have described it as like the spells or the vapors. But you might feel just kind of sweaty, clammy. You can get a little pale or loss in your color. And because because of that, then your body kind of responds, and it's trying to kind of keep the blood flow moving. And so you get a faster heart rate. So some possible causes of lightheadedness is what's called orthostatic blood pressure. Our blood pressure constantly changes, and there's the different sensors, and they're sensitive to position. So our blood pressure is going to be different when we're laying down versus when we're sitting versus when we stand up. So there are times when we change positions. We go from laying down or sitting and then to standing up. And then we have this change in our blood pressure, right? Water likes to run downhill. It goes towards the rest of our body. And the brain is like, whoa, just feel a little weird for a moment. So it could be that drop in that blood pressure. So those changes are normal, but if there's a delay in how quickly our body reacts, can make you feel lightheaded. Could be some circulation issues to the brain. So whether it's here in our neck, and this is why posture is so important, because we might be crimping off part of our circulation, or it could be circulation actually within the brain that's feeding the brain. You can have a heart condition. Heart condition can make you feel lightheaded. It can give you, because it controls your blood pressure, and it controls, that's where a lot of our blood pressure sensors are actually within the blood vessels. So here's a graph as far as what is considered normal blood pressure. So generally less than 120, but if that top number, that's when your heart is at work. Then if it's below a certain number, then you might just feel kind of washed out. That second number in your blood pressure, what it means is when your heart is at rest. So it's like when your heart is pushing all that blood through your body, and then also how much pressure is there when your heart is kind of refilling and relaxing. All right, so here's vertigo. So a true definition of vertigo is more like a spinning sensation. It's the room spins. If you've ever felt, some people, we can artificially kind of replicate this by having too much to drink, right? And you kind of feel like, ooh, that ceiling fan just seems to be just like moving on its own across the ceiling. I need to hold on to something stable because I feel like things around me are moving. So I need to try to latch on. Most often we want to close our eyes. And so some possible causes is both central and then peripheral. So central just relates to the brain and the spinal cord. So it could be related to a stroke, it could be related to MS. It could be related to some of those circulation issues that we talked about. It could be because you had a brain injury or post-concussion, like they used to call it getting your bell rung. There's also things that are outside of that main processing system and the peripheral system. So that is the BPPV, much easier to say than benign paroxysmal positional vertigo. Acoustic neuroma is more of a tumor on the ear that affects the processing of the information there. And then there's also Meniere's disease, which is a fluid imbalance, and it also is related to hearing loss. So I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to try to move up through a little more quickly. So there are different things that can be caused a part of central vertigo. Migraine, surprisingly enough, it can give you some dizziness as well. Some other things. So peripheral, there's an ototoxicity that means that there are certain medications that they kind of kill off some of the sensory nerves and cells in the inner ear, and so then they stop being able to effectively help us as much. The difference, though, is that you can either have a gradual onset in central. The symptoms might be a little milder. They're not so much affected by my head position or whatnot. But peripheral is usually like a really rapid onset. It can be intermittent, so it comes and goes, but it can be quite severe. And then usually it means like when my head is moving around, then I feel it a lot more. So here's the other category. You could have a trauma where something kind of get literally out of place in that inner ear system, and that can happen from a fall, where you hit your head, whiplash, where things kind of get thrown off, being a victim of an assault or a collision. Anxiety is another thing that that affects our brain. We talked about migraines. Infections, so how the sinuses, how they connect to your ears, how your ears feel stopped up, right? So your sinuses, they can impact how well we feel through our ears, and also kind of gives us this off balance sensation. Seizures, visual distortions, if you have some vision issues, it can also make you feel off balance and feel dizzy. And then again, medications can be a culprit. So what should you do? So here's where if I would consider more an emergency situation. So you would want to seek emergency care if your dizziness and vertigo, if they're persistent. Again, right, if that constant, and they don't come and go. But it seems like things are kind of moving more up and down, right? So rather than that side-to-side movement or that room spin, or things are kind of twisting on you, but if it seems like things are just kind of like everything is kind of going up and down. I mean, if you have other symptoms, like this person in the picture, she's trying to smile and half of her face is drooping. If you can't lift your both arms equally, if you have some garbled speech, then it could be a sign of having a stroke. If you have double vision or loss of vision, or again, that gradual onset, then those would be cases I would seek care faster. So, well, if I don't feel like it's an emergency, I don't need to go call 911, or I don't need to go to the emergency room. Okay, well, who else can help, right? I can go see my primary care provider. An audiologist can assist with assessing some of these things, a neurologist, and then as well as a physical therapist. So all of these providers, what they'll do is they'll talk to you and ask you, like, when did it start? Okay, when does it happen? How long does it last? What makes it feel better? What makes it feel worse, right? What does it feel like to you? Have you been to any other healthcare provider? Because that might tell me if you've been going through any other tests or whatnot. Other things that they may ask you is they may look at your medications. They might look at your other health conditions. Were there any recent events? Have you been through a lot of stress lately? Do you have a history of migraines? Did you have a fall? So all of those things. So kind of what has been going on leading up to those moments. So your healthcare provider may check your blood pressure, and they may check it in different ways. Not generally we check blood pressure when we're sitting, but also to see if there's a change from laying down to sitting, and then also to standing. So not all of us know that they're like the drop in blood pressure, and that gives it that lightheaded feeling. This is a tool that came out through the CDC that talks about how to check blood pressure accurately. Your healthcare provider might give you a survey, kind of like, what makes you feel more dizzy? Is it when you're doing this? Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're drunk? Do you feel embarrassed? What's going on? Is it because when I'm like up high on something? So they might give you a questionnaire. So other things that they might do, remember that vision plays a big role. So might do a quick vision screen, not to see like, okay, do your glasses have the right prescription, but like, are you having double vision? How does each eye work individually? How well do they work together, right? And then are they coordinated, right? Are they working well together? And then are they in the right alignment? Gonna ask you about a quick hearing screen. So are you having a loss of hearing? Are you having pain in your ear? Right, that could be a sign of having an infection. Are you having ringing or like a roaring? A roaring sound, that's usually when we have that fluid imbalance. Kind of like, it just sounds like like water. Like it just, some people say it's kind of like a rushing or a roaring sound, and that gets louder. And again, because that's as the fluid builds up inside the ear, then it kind of gives us this weird sound, or it can just feel full. So those will give us indications of whether or not you have, maybe a recent infection. So all those things are going to key in. Might do some balance and walking activities, looking at some coordination, and then doing some positional testing, just trying to find out, okay, what could be the possible causes of what's happening here. So some special testing, though, that happens more like at an audiologist, perhaps like a neurologist's office, would be caloric testing, where they use warm or cold water in your ear and then look to see where your eyes move. And then they also do some more specific testing. So positional testing, looking at the time. So positional testing is they might take you through this position. So some of you may have heard about what's called a Dix-Hallpike maneuver. So this is where your provider may put you in this position in order to see what happens. What they're looking for is some involuntary movements, and how does that, of your eyes, and how does that make you feel? So they may have you do something like laying on your side, and not everybody can like lay on the bed with their head hanging off, because for various reasons. So there's some modified versions of looking at that, of getting you in different positions and just seeing what happens. Because what they're doing is they're taking those canals, right, those that we talked about deep in the inner ear, and as we move, it tells us, that gyroscope tells us where we're moving. And if something is amiss in that area, then it makes our eyes do this really funky thing. It does these involuntary movements that we can't control, and that's what gives you that sensation of the room spins. Okay. So now there's some treatment options going from there. So based on all the information that you shared with your healthcare provider, and some of the tests and measures that they may have gone through with you. So there may be some medications to manage or decrease your symptoms. There's no medication that cures vertigo or dizziness, okay? It may help you manage your symptoms, but it doesn't get rid of the cause. So there's physical therapy, yay, physical therapy. And then there's surgery. Surgery should be the last option. So the physical therapy, we hope would be the route that you choose. Because physical therapy, yes, we can help you. And sometimes it can be just in a couple of visits. Sometimes it might take a little bit longer, just depending on what's going on. So some things in physical therapy would take you through some positional maneuvers. So depending on what brought on your symptoms during your session, it might do what's called an Epley's maneuver. Epley's is something a lot of people have heard about, and it's moving your head, getting into in a position. It's kind of like the little game at Cracker Barrel where you're trying to get the marbles back into the center hole, right? So what we're trying to do is we're moving you different positions in order to get things back in the place that they should be. Not everybody can do that. Those same movements because of flexibility or some neck pain. So there's some alternative movements that you'll see on the internet. There on the right is what's called a somersault movement. So there's all sorts of different ways. So your healthcare provider, and especially physical therapy, they'll gauge what you're comfortable doing, and then make sure you're safe to go through with it. So we saw this picture before of the branch dare-off. So this can also help you work through and get your body acclimated to the movement, right, without thinking it's such a big deal. And then I can also get things kind of back in place if they have gotten knocked loose from like a fall or trauma. Might give you some exercises to work on how you move your eyes, right? So if I'm looking at two different targets and making sure that they're working well together, looking at things near and looking at things that are far away. So again, kind of working some of the eye movements, and then getting the eyes and the ears to talk again well together. So that might give you some things to work on. Might help you coordinate and get your body to move together. So it depends on what brings on symptoms for you as far as what kind of exercises. Yes, there's actually exercises that we do. We don't want to avoid these activities, as we actually have to work through them, and your physical therapist can help guide you how to do it in a safe and a progressive manner. So there might be some neck stretches. With that posture stuff, what I failed to mention earlier is that all of those muscles, they give your brain information. And then sometimes if these are really tight, then where they lead up to the ear and then also message to the brain is sometimes our dizziness is caused by just the tightness in our neck muscles in our posture. Again, if we have that forward posture, we might be crimping off some of our circulation. And so we really want to emphasize good posture so that we have all the messages going from an information highway from all of our nerves to the spinal cord up to the brain and back out to the body, as well as feeding the brain with blood flow. So physical therapy, other things that we work on are some balance and walking exercises. So they will probably challenge you more for what you would encounter on a day-to-day basis, right? Just think of a pro athlete. They're going to train at a really high level, right? So that come game day, you know, they're ready just for anything and everything. So no, you may not be standing on a balance board that's got a little wobbly nub underneath, but if you can handle that, right, then your body is going to be well acclimated to, like, if somebody gives you a push or a nudge. The person there in the bars, is she's standing on a piece of foam, and that's how we can control so that you feel comfortable working on grass, gravel, sand, any kind of unlevel surfaces. Sometimes working on a narrow foundation, right? So sometimes if we get bumped, right, we kind of, our feet get crossed, and then we got to figure out, you know, how to get in and out of those positions. And walking is not always in a forward movement. Sometimes you have to turn around. Sometimes you have to back up to get to your chair. So we'll work on moving in different directions so that you feel comfortable, safe, and well prepared. We also spend time on talking through how to manage your symptoms. So some of those things, education components also include managing diet. So you want to eat and drink throughout the course of your day. Again, that fluid could affect how your heart is feeling. You want to avoid foods and drinks that are high in salt and sugar content. Drink plenty of fluids, right, because we don't want that drop in blood pressure. Avoid caffeine, because then that makes our brain feel a little frenzied. Limit or eliminate alcohol. That also affects the sensation or the fluid balance in our ear, as well as the speed of information that we get from our body and can make us feel off balance. Tobacco products, and then you want to avoid those. And then talk to your healthcare provider if you're taking any herbs, supplements, or vitamins, because those can impact your medications, and then how your body senses things. So other things that you can do on a day-to-day basis to manage your dizziness, your vertigo, or whatever symptom that you're feeling, manage your stress, right? We talked about anxiety. We talked about migraines, that those can lead to, like, full-on vertigo. That spinning sensation. So managing your stress, staying active. Our bodies, they are very complicated, and they do so much for us, and we don't even bat an eye at all the things that they do for us. And it's not, we don't really always pay attention to it until something starts to go amiss or awry. So let's take care of our bodies. Stay active, stay fit, and then so we can take care of our body so that we can feel not dizzy, so we can feel balanced, and so that we can feel good and we can feel normal. You also want to get your vision checked regularly, again, because remember, your vision that completely impacts a lot of the information process that we get that affects your balance, your dizziness, and vertigo. And so finally, if you have anything that you want to pursue further, and there's many more things that can cause dizziness and vertigo, I find that this is a really good website. This is called the Vestibular Disorders Association, and it's called VITA, and they have great information for healthcare providers as well as for people in the community. You can connect with other people, and you can also hear other stories of success, of how people have managed their vertigo and their dizziness long term. So I think I'm getting close to time. And so I want to see, I'll look around my screen so I can.
Yeah, Kristen, that was fantastic. That was I
A lot of information.
am I interrupting? Are you done?
It's a lot of information. Key
Yeah.
points are like there's so many things, so many ways that you can feel, and it's so hard to decipher all of that. So best thing to do is really seek the care of a healthcare professional and consider physical therapy. We have the pleasure of working with individuals and getting through the heart of things.
Yeah. That was a lot of fantastic information. I know we're coming up quick on that 1:15 end point here. If anybody did have any questions, now would be a great time to put them in the chat. I'm also going to put in the chat while everyone's thinking about that. Our event for our next one is going to be on Thursday, Therapy Thursday, Thursday, April 1st. And the topic is going to be diastasis recti. It's adult tummy time. So this is a really interesting topic, particularly for postpartum women. It's a fantastic underexplored thing for physical therapy. So I put the link in there for our Facebook event, and you can see more information on that. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time.
I know I have one person reach out to me and sent me a message. So somebody had said that they had a couple episodes of intense vertigo while sitting. And then it lasted about 30 to 60 seconds. And of course, when something like that happens when you're driving or when you're in the middle of doing something, that can feel, yes, very, very stressful and very distressing. Interesting. So they say that hasn't happened for a couple of years. And so I think because it was like a one-time episode, I'm not really sure. There's a lot more questions that I would ask if there was something else going on. Was there a lot of movement going on? Was there at the time of high stress? Was it the room spins kind of thing? So I think if that's something that you're concerned about and you want to make sure everything's checked out, I would talk to a healthcare provider, and they can run through the whole gamut, and then make sure that everything is working hunky-dory for you. And I'm glad that it hasn't repeated itself, by the way. So one person's asked, does dry needling help with this at all? Yes, if the root cause is because of the muscles or something that's impacting the postural communication back to the brain. I would say that is not my at the top of my go-to things. I would venture to say that we would need to look at maybe some flexibility, some posture management, how you set yourself up at work. And then, dry needling can assist and progress with that, but that would be adjunctive, I would say, but not as a primary means of treating. Even so, we would still go through a lot of eye and vision exercises, and kind of making sure that all the systems are working and coordinating well.
Okay. Well, I think we've hit our time limit here. Thank you, Kristen, so much for the great presentation, all the wonderful information. Thank you to everybody for attending this episode of Therapy Thursday. It will be available on YouTube later today. Please join our Facebook group and our YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll have more information about future events. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you all.